It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. We take your emails as well. I try to read and respond to everyone. Some of them we read on the air at randykabc@gmail.com. That's randykabc@gmail.com. We are 3 weeks away from the end of election season. I can't wait. Everybody listening who happens to listen in the state of California has gotten their ballot in the mail, hopefully, and voting has begun. And there's a lot of things on this ballot. It's 6 pages long in my county of Los Angeles. And so we're trying to spend our time going through some of the issues that aren't getting as much attention as Prop 36 or the George Gascon race, because there are 10 statewide propositions and quite a few city and county propositions as well. We have covered on this show Prop 33, the rent control initiative. We've covered Measure A, which is the doubling of the homeless tax in the county of Los Angeles. But today, we're going to focus on something that's on everybody's ballot in the state of California, whether you're in LA County or Orange County or Ventura County, and that's Proposition 6. Because Proposition 6 is a little more nuanced, a little more complicated, and I feel like not really enough people are talking about it, but it's something we all have to vote on, so it is of consequence. Now, of course, this is one of the side effects of the direct democracy that is California. Sometimes what seems like very specific issues are things that the entire state has to weigh in on. 22 million ballots go out, and one of the things that we have to vote on in this election is Proposition 6, which, if you read the official title, eliminates the constitutional provision allowing involuntary servitude for incarcerated persons. Okay, break that down to me like I'm 5 years old. Okay, it is illegal to make someone work for free in the state of California and has been that way since the state of California was established. However, you can make someone work for free or practically nothing if they're in prison. There are a bunch of former prisoners that got enough support in the legislature to not vote on this, but to put this to the voters. What this would do is it would amend the California Constitution. That's part of why the voters anytime you amend the California Constitution, the voters have to have their say. And it would remove that provision that allows jails and prisons to impose involuntary servitude to punish crime. So when you're spending time in prison, being rehabilitated for your crimes against society, you can be forced to work in the prison, either for no money or very little money. Whether it's working in the prison kitchen or it's the stereotypical pressing of license plates. I don't know if that actually happens or that's just something that you see in cartoons. But there is an argument from the advocates for Proposition 6. Spending so much time on tasks like that is not setting up these people for the real world, not setting them up for success when they inevitably get out of prison. And the fact that they get paid almost nothing or nothing is kind of rude and insulting. So we're going to go through Proposition 6. We're going to find out what it does, who's for it, who's against it. Interestingly enough, when you go to the official California voter guide, there is no established opposition to Proposition 6, but it is still quite controversial because people have very, very emotional responses when we start talking about public safety, criminal justice reform, and prison reform. And even if you believe that people should be in jail and should be in prison when they have committed crimes, which the vast majority of us do believe, there is definitely a question of, okay, people are getting put in prison. How are we having them spend that time in prison? Some of that forced labor or very little paid labor includes when we have prisoners working on the fire lines, which I always think is a wild thing that happens. And I always wonder, is there like a pathway if you're doing that, putting your life on the line as a prisoner to deal with the wildfires, to once you get out to go work at a fire station? Because that's a tough gig. My question to you at 800-222-KABC, if you've already voted, tell me how you weighed in on Prop 6. If you're still working on your ballot. You still haven't filled everything out. What do you think about Proposition 6? Should we be forcing prisoners to work? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Let's get some information on this from one of the proponents with our piece from KPIX in the Bay Area.
California voters also will weigh in on forced labor in state prisons. Our Lauren Toms breaks down what Prop 6 is all about.
Every day, Lawrence Cox proudly wears this pin that says all of us or none.
It's inclusivity. It means everybody. No matter what your race is, we are all capable of being impacted.
For Lawrence, that impact is through the justice system. After spending 17 years in prison, he now wears it as a symbol of his fight to end forced labor as a criminal penalty, as he helps to write a ballot measure that may outlaw that practice for prisoners.
So this guy's got experience because he spent 17 years in prison. I guess we don't need to know what he did.
As he helps to write a ballot measure that may outlaw that practice for prisoners.
Making, $22 a month for working all day just about sometimes. I have those experiences in my mind. I understood what it meant not to have my own autonomy. I understood what it meant to...
Now, you could make the argument that you need to pay your debt to society. So that's why you're not making the minimum wage to work as a janitor in a prison kitchen or whatever you're doing. You can totally make that argument. But also you could make the argument that, okay, this person is working 10, 12 hours a day inside the prison after dealing with other prisoners, and you get $22 a month. That's not even enough money for canteen.
Making, $22 a month for...
So I'm not really sure what Prop 6 would do here, because you're going to need somebody to work in that kitchen. Otherwise, you hire outside, and that could be unsafe. There's a whole bunch of issues there. But is it that we then pay the prisoners at least minimum wage, or that money goes into account for when they get out of prison? I don't know.
Making, $22 a month for working all day just about sometimes. I have those experiences in my mind. I understood what it meant not to have my own autonomy. I understood what it meant to be forced to work.
California outlawed slavery in 1850 in its first state constitution, but it held on to a clause that is still in effect 174 years later. It allows for prisons to demand inmates to work various jobs. And Lawrence says his experience working in his prison's kitchen and as a janitor was not effective in his own journey of rehabilitation.
Now, you could make the argument that, hey, that's some life skills you're learning right there, working as a janitor, working in a kitchen. Although I don't know how much it translates with the slop they serve in prison to working at a restaurant kitchen, but it is some experience. But those are very specific jobs, and they're not tuned to everybody. So this is a tough one. These are some real scruples California is putting on us.
And as a janitor was not effective in his own journey of rehabilitation.
It's so cold to where all the water that falls is already turned into icicles leaning on the roof from the dock, as you know, that we work at. And I remember...
Was this guy in San Quentin? That sounds like San Quentin.
And I remember almost having frostbite because we have to constantly go in and outside to unload and load trucks.
According to the
Now, that's horrible, but somebody's going to have to do that. I mean, is it that, okay, if we're going to make prisoners do that, they have to get paid a living wage? I don't know.
According to the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, inmates earn anywhere from 16 cents per hour for basic labor to $10.24 per day for inmates who...
If you're making 16 cents an hour, that feels more insulting than making nothing. Again, but what's the point here? Like, is this paying your debt to society, or is this setting you up for success on the outside? I don't know.
According to the...
I have not been to prison. Surprisingly.
According to the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, inmates earn anywhere from 16 cents per hour for basic labor to $10.24 per day for inmates who work as firefighters. But Lawrence says...
Wait, $10 a day to fight the fires? Yikes.
But Lawrence...
You also get like time credits if you're working certain jobs. I would assume you get a lot of time credits for fighting a fire, and that's getting you shorter time on your sentence, so that's something.
But Lawrence says these wages, even at the highest levels, are not enough to provide an inmate with enough money upon release or to sustain their needs from within prison.
You know, there's a lot of remote work jobs. What if we had inmates working in the prisons, working, I don't know, whether it's customer service or you have a laptop. It's very restricted to what you can use the laptop for, but you can do data entry or any kind of other remote work that is out there that is needed. And all that money goes into a bank account. And so when you finally do get out, you have something to live on while you try to get your life together. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. Or do you think the system is working as intended and this is fine? This is a tough one. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Proposition 6 would eliminate involuntary work for the incarcerated, for prisoners, for people in jail. They would either choose not to work and could go do classes or something or other rehabilitation therapy, whatever you're doing to try to become a better person. Or if they're going to do those jobs, they have to get paid more than 16 cents an hour. Where do you weigh in on Proposition 6? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Also love to talk to anybody that has been incarcerated. We got a few of those people that call in regularly. If you have been to prison, I'd love to know how you feel about this.
Or to sustain their needs from within prison.
It's hard on people's families when they are incarcerated. It costs. It costs. It really does. It costs. So being able to take some of that burden off of my family would have been excellent. But making pennies on the hour, you can't do that. It's impossible.
Critics of the ballot measure say work inside a prison is all part of an inmate's need to repay their debt to society and set some up for life outside of prison walls.
Are there any restaurants that specialize in gruel? Because if so, these people have experience.
But so far, no money has been spent opposing the ballot measure. Even so, a new study from the Nonpartisan Public Policy Institute of California shows that half of likely voters are estimated to vote no on the measure. And study author Mark Baldessari says a lack of knowledge of the proposition often leads voters to default to a no vote.
There isn't a D or an R next to it. There's a yes or a no. I think there was more of a sense of why did the state legislature put this on the ballot? What's this all about? What is involuntary servitude anyway?
You know, this is true. I bet there's a lot of people out there, if you read a bill several times, you still don't understand it because, well, you're an average person and you weren't meant to understand it. There's a lot of people that would just vote no because this seems too complicated. That is 100% true. And I guess when it's certain instances where it's something that's so complicated that gets on the ballot, I understand the complaint with that. But I guess when it's a change to the California Constitution, then you have to have the voters weigh in on it, even if it's something this intricate and complicated.
But Lawrence argues providing inmates with the choice to work or dignified pay would do more to improve public safety and reduce the potential to reoffend.
I think it's an excellent opportunity for us as a state, as a society, as a people, as constituents, to step up and put our morals before profit and gain, put our morals before the desire to exploit individuals.
Hoping to pave a new path of prioritizing rehabilitation.
So there's a little explainer on Proposition 6. This is on your ballot. You could be voting on this right now. It's either a yes or a no. Proposition 6 would amend the California Constitution to make it so incarcerated persons cannot work involuntarily, can't work for 16 cents an hour. So either they can say no if they are being asked to do something, or I guess they would have to get paid. It's not super clear on the details of this, how this would work. And if you don't have inmates doing those jobs, like working in the kitchens, who's going to do those jobs? I don't know. Where do you weigh in on Proposition 6? 800-222-KABC. 1-800-222-5222. Let's start with Adam in LA. Adam, hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing great.
Good. So yeah, I'm definitely a no on Prop 6. It to me doesn't make much sense. I mean, they no one's factored in the fact that they have free room and board that the taxpayer pays for. So, and then, you know, if they're doing jobs in the prisons that they don't want to do anymore, well, then that's going to cost taxpayers even more to have people do those jobs to service the prisoners.
That is a good point about the fact that, hey, it's not like they're paying for their lodging while they're there for 5 to 10 years.
Nope.
Well, that's a legitimate argument to vote against it, Adam. Thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. 1-800-222-5222. Love to hear how you're weighing in on Prop 6. Everyone in the state has to vote on this. I'd also love to talk to anyone that has been incarcerated because you probably have a more learned perspective on this issue. Let's go to Ken in La Habra. Ken, hello.
Hey, how you doing, brother? So I can weigh on this in a few things. First of all, when she was saying that, they don't make enough money to survive. I mean, they feed you 3 times a day, so you get all the food you need. And at the end of the day, you make 30, 40, 50 bucks. You can get some candy bars or something. So it's not a problem. Second of all, the firefighters, they get third time for fighting fires and doing that. So they get a lot of time off their sentence. Plus, they get $1 an hour when they're on the fire. So they're making the $10 a day plus 24 bucks a day. You're on the fire sometimes all week, so you're making a decent amount of money. Third, again, what the other dude said, who's going to do the jobs? And I'm telling you, when the inmates work in the kitchen, they get extra food at the end of the day. So they come up, you get extra time off, unless you're an 80%er. If you're an 80%er, then you're just burnt. But plus, you get out of your cell. I mean, you're not stuck all day. I mean, third, you can learn some skills there. I mean, but the kitchen, you're not going to learn a lot. So, I mean, this thing is just ridiculous. I think it's just a bunch of people being lazy, bro. It's just, crybabies. That's my personal opinion. I did a lot of time, and that's where I'm at. So.
Well, Ken, that's a really interesting perspective. I need to ask you, because I don't know the term. What is an 80%er?
That's somebody who, so there's a couple different kinds of people that go to jail. If you go to jail for a violent crime or something, at least you used to, when I was in there, you got to do 80% of your time. Then there's other people, they do half time now, and I think even less. I think they might have reduced it now from 80% to 66%. I actually go back into prison now because I'm a Christian, so I got saved, and I go in there and I talk to prisoners about Jesus. But so, and I think the last time I was in there, and you want to know another fun fact? They have tablets. I was just in Chino prison, bro. They have tablets in there where they can make phone calls for free and video phone calls and text people from prison with a taxpayer-funded tablet from the prison, which is insane. What I was in there was collect calls. So I don't know what else they want. You know what I mean? Next thing you know, everybody's going to want a hooker to come in. I mean, it's just crazy. I don't know.
Oh, wow. Ken, I got to ask you, as somebody that's never been on the inside, how bad was the food?
Well, I'll be honest with you. When I first started going, which was back in 1995, the food was really good because the inmates prepared it. So you'd actually have stuff because people actually cared, and you would get these big, beautiful cinnamon rolls, and it was good. And as it progressed, it got worse and worse and worse. And now it's just like, I don't know, maybe airplane food, I guess. I don't know. It's not good. It's like school, nasty stuff. I don't know. You can live on it. I mean, I'll tell you this. If you're hungry, you're going to eat it and enjoy it. So that's the way I look at it.
Well, thank you so much for the call, Ken. Really enjoyed talking to you. Please call us again. That was really interesting. Okay, good to know. Next time I'm flying Spirit, this tastes just like a prison. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. 1-800-222-5222. Proposition 6 is on the ballot. It would eliminate the constitutional provision allowing involuntary servitude for incarcerated persons, which means we can force people that are in prison to work certain jobs for very little or no pay. 16 cents an hour, $10 a day, but you also get time off. Do you support this? Are you against this? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. How are you weighing in on Proposition 6? 800-222-KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. We're taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. The proposal is Proposition 6. It would ban involuntary servitude as a punishment for crime. So currently, if you're in prison, if you're in jail, you can be forced to do certain jobs. You can be punished if you refuse to do those jobs, and you get paid very little to almost nothing to do them. This would change all that. We're not totally sure what it would mean if people wouldn't do those jobs at all, or they'd have to get paid a living wage. Don't know. But I want to hear from you because this is something we're all voting on right now. How do you weigh in on Proposition 6? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. When we come back, we'll go to Brett, Jeff, Danny, Denise, Kenneth, and you. 800-222-KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. We take your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com. That's randykabc@gmail.com. The board is lit up. People want to talk about this. The ballots are in the mail. There's a whole bunch of propositions we're voting on statewide. One of them that hasn't gotten nearly enough attention is Proposition 6. It would eliminate the constitutional provision allowing involuntary servitude for incarcerated people. So people in prisons are asked to work jobs. If they don't work those jobs, they can get in trouble. This would eliminate that and maybe change the fact that they're paid like 50 cents an hour. How do you weigh in on Proposition 6? 800-222-KABC. Let's go to Brett, who's been holding in Oak Park. Brett, hello.
Hey, how you doing? First
Doing
off,
great.
They're kind of misrepresenting how this is done. What happens is you get the opportunity to have a job, and you want that job so that you can get some money to pay for your canteen. And like the last caller said, he was spot on. A lot of those jobs you'll get extra food, which you can get extra money for canteen. You could be working doing banding, making the clothes that the inmates need. You could be on there doing the work outside of that, which some people could get contraband through there, which they make money off of. So that's everybody's side hustle and everything else they do. And it's the one thing they want to do when they get in there is get a job. And you're not able to just get a job. You hope to get one. That's what you could hope for. Best thing you could hope for is fire camp because you get all the time off, you get good money, and it's the best thing you could get. So those are things that are wanted. It's being the way they're representing it's entirely incorrect. There's nobody been forced to do anything. It's a very low amount of money, but you're in there for a reason. So I mean, what do you expect? So and like the other caller said, what are you going to pay extra money, bring other people in there, and put them at risk? So that makes no sense. The taxpayer spends more money. That makes no sense. So, and at the same time, they've taken so much money out of the prisons to help people with getting back on track and getting their lives together. They've taken all of the life skills out of there where they had auto shop and things like that in the past and carpeting and all that. So, they've taken all the money out of getting people from stop coming back. So, it makes no sense to take out the one thing that they are doing that gives them some kind of independence and gives them some kind of extras and gets some sense of, at least doing something. Gets them out of their cell, gets them moving around, gets them doing things. So I just think it's a no. I think the person's playing the victim, whoever's running this thing, who wrote it, that's past inmate, that's the victim people these days. I'm just not a fan of it. Just think it's a zero.
Wow. Well, that was quite the argument that you have made for it. What would you say to the proponents or the people that are supporting this that say, well, it takes away the time that they could be doing with their actual rehabilitative therapy and, life skills and all that?
Well, the problem is they're not getting any of that. It doesn't take away from any of their time. Matter of fact, it actually gives them time. It gives them time to go and do some things that makes them feel a part of. I mean, maybe you're working on a banding and you're working on the pants or whatever. You go out there, you got a group that does that. You're out of your you're kind of in a routine, which you want to be in. You want to be in a routine there. You don't want to be sitting in a cell or just roaming around with nothing to do. There's no other things in there to help you rehabilitate. They're not missing out on anything. If they're not getting this job, then they're missing out on something. So that's what's lacking. There needs to be things in there like you're suggesting there is. There just isn't. You could do things that you're going to have to do for yourself. It's like the last guy said, he got saved, he went to Jesus. There's groups that do that. It's done by the people within the prisons. The prisoners do things themselves. There's nothing given to them anymore. There's no things to get them to have a sense of anything good to leave there so that they don't come back. And that's the problem why everybody keeps coming back. They got nothing for these people once they leave there, and then they don't keep their word. with paperwork and everything else. Once they get out of there, they just get out and give you your $200, send you on your way, and then they hold all that to you for the rest of your life, and there is no second chances. It's all talk. They say they want to let you, give you so you do your time. That's it, but that's not it. They hold it against you for the rest of your life, put it on your record, and you can't get a job. So, they should give you life skills and do things. And those people that go to fire camp should be firefighters after that. But there should be something that continues into something further. That shouldn't be taken away. It just makes no sense.
Those are the issues I'd love for us to be voting on. That's some really important stuff. Brett, thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. I want people that are giving their debt to society to be set up for success when they get out. So whatever we do to do that, that would be great. Let's go to Jeff in Eastvale. Jeff, hello.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Doing great.
So that guy was kind of right, but he is wrong on the rehabilitation. I have 16 years in the department. I am a sergeant with the California Department of Corrections. And he is wrong in the fact that these guys have multiple classes and education and all these free stuff for them to do. So when they get out, they're not coming back into the prison. Also, if we're going to pay them a normal wage as what they want, then they need to start paying for their education, their medical treatments, their trips to the hospital, the doctors, the sex transition medications, everything that we pay for on the outside. If they're working and getting more money, then they should be paying for it too. The reason they don't make as much money is they don't need money inside of prison. There's no reason to have money in prison.
Yeah, outside of, getting some stuff at the canteen. But you make some really good points about the fact if we're going to pay them, then they would have to start paying for all the other things that they get gratis. Jeff, thank you so much for the call, and thank you for your service. Appreciate it. Prison guard listening to this station. How about that? Let's go to Denise and Carson. Denise, hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great.
Good. I kind of agree with both of your last two callers to some degree. I don't think anybody should be forced. I mean, if I'm serving 17 years in the pen for a crime I committed, then I'm serving my time, to be forced to do labor. And I agree there. I work the institutions as well. And there's tons of prisoners that would volunteer to get out of their cells every day. It's just who wants to sit in a 6x6 cell all day long or however big it is and do nothing. I worked multiple institutions, and we never had a problem with people volunteering. Also, you've got corporations that have these businesses within the institutions, and hell, they're getting free labor. From somebody for way less than they would pay me as a citizen. I want to be paid in the community, not some prisoner being paid for what I should be paid for on the outs. So I just don't think that, forcing labor upon people, they're serving their time. And as the gentleman right before said, there are multiple programs. I had a nephew that served 17 years. He went to school. He studied. We sent him tons of books. There's multiple ways to rehabilitate people while they're there. And we're not going to work at trying to give them an opportunity at something else. And I don't happen to believe that if you have one of these prisoners working, doing firefighter work, they're not going to be able to become a firefighter when they get out. They're not, because they have a felony record. There's very strict guidelines for certain lines of work that once you have a big F after your name, you're not going to be able to get certain jobs. So if they can educate themselves in whatever way they can, and like I said, many of them are going to volunteer to get out of those rooms and do those jobs that need to be done versus sitting there in isolation or whatever else they'd be doing in there. So I don't believe we should be forcing them. They're serving up their time.
I think you make some great points there. The last thing I would want to do is just sit in that room and do nothing all day. Thanks so much for the call, Denise. Appreciate it. We'll keep going with your calls as we discuss Proposition 6. I'll try to get to everybody, so if you're on hold, stay on hold. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. As we go through the ballot, we're talking Proposition 6 today. Let's go to Danny in Mission Viejo. Danny, hello.
Yes, hello. How are you?
Doing great.
Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you.
So look, some of your callers, yes, there's some good points on the other side, right? Myself, unfortunately, I had an unfortunate circumstance of being inside the prison system, right, for some mistake I made very, very recently in life, right? So I have the experience of seeing both sides. I am against it for many reasons. One, we did our crime, we do our time. The work we do is the work we do. We get paid for it, we're lucky, right? A lot of people don't even get that chance in other countries and other societies. So a lot of this was brought upon by the firefighting program. Just so you guys know where it comes from, just a sense of it. There are a lot of people who felt like, I'm being forced to be here. You're not forced to be there. You go to training, they send you. That's involuntary. However, you don't have to perform. Now you just get sent back to prison. They take that as a punishment. It's not. You're doing a job they sent you to. The fire service for California inmates saves California about $100 million annually. So it's a good thing to be doing. The previous caller stated that as a firefighter, you can't do anything when you get out. I actually know many people that didn't want to be there that now are outside fighting fires as free men. They don't commit crimes anymore. They got off drugs. They're very well behaved. They're different people because it introduced them. They didn't want to when they first got there, but now they work for CAL FIRE, making a decent living and serving in the state of California.
Oh, that's incredible. So people that worked in prisons as firefighters, they end up being able to work for CAL FIRE when they get out?
Yes, and I'm still in communication with about 10 of them right now that work all throughout the state of California. They went to the training program as soon as they got out, right, through CAL FIRE out in Ventura, and they've stayed within the service. They've been out for years now, fighting fires, enjoying their life. They travel up and down the state fighting fires. So there is life outside of it, right? Myself, there's life outside. I didn't continue to choose a bad route when I was in there. I worked. I didn't make much. Who cares? I wanted to get out and go home to my family. So there's reasons why the jobs exist. You don't need raises. What do you have? You say it's to buy canteen. That's one thing, but there's also large amounts of drugs within the prison system. So you get more money, they purchase more drugs. Unfortunately, that's a touchy subject that people don't like to talk about, but it's real. So,
I didn't even think about that aspect of it. Danny, that's really enlightening. We're running late on a break, but thank you so much for the call. I appreciate it. I didn't think about the fact that people are buying drugs in prison. My goodness. This is fascinating. I wish I had 2 hours to discuss this one. More of your calls coming up. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Time for a lightning round. I'm going to try to get to as many calls as I can. You got 30 seconds. Ronnie in Seal Beach. Ronnie, go.
Yeah, hi, Randy. Real quick, I was in prison for 10 years, and in order to get out in half of that time, I'd had to work. So they called it day for day. And so it was behooved me to do that. So I got out, and I stayed clean and off my drugs, and it was great. So anyway, I'm for it. If somebody wants to better themselves and get their day for day and work and stay productive, so you don't go crazy in there. And if not, then you do the whole 10 years and get in trouble, and maybe even more. I've seen guys go in there with 2 years and end up getting 17 or 18 or even life for getting involved in the politics, stabbing other people and playing, being a fool.
Well, we don't want any of that. Ronnie, thank you so much for the call. As always, love you, buddy. Let's go to Marina in Glendale. Marina, hello.
Hello, how are you?
Doing great.
Okay, I'm against it also. I think that something that needs to be seen also is the verbatim in the actual bill is they use a lot of ending slavery, abolishing slavery in the original bill. And I think that it's a little bit more than just a firefighter situation because it does say that online that it's like the prison help that came through for the California fires was up to 43%. That's a large number. But I think that it's probably going to be a little bit more than that. Like, how far in actual employee benefits are they going to want, for these folks in prison? And, it's going to cost California taxpayers more than they currently pay $132,000 annually per inmate. How much more is this going to cost the taxpayer? And then on top of that, what's next? Workers' comp, what's next? they get to sue whoever, the fire department that they're working for. They're going to get, a little burned on their hand or something like that. How much more is it going to cost? And then with all the slavery verbatim, and for once, Gavin Newsom did something good, which was be against the bill originally, is this whole reparations thing going on in California. Even though California was not a slavery state, the verbatim in the bill actually makes it read as if we are currently a slavery state, even right now, it's current day. So that's
wow.
a few things
That's really, Marina, we're out of time, but thank you so much for the call. I appreciate it. Sorry we couldn't get to Bill, Kenneth, or Garrett. Everyone who called in was also against it. Enlightening conversation. That's what we like to do here. I feel like at the very least, you're all a little more informed about what is Prop 6, whether you want to support it or vote against it. Thank you all so much for tuning in. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC.